Zoom afterwards as well. Remember, if you have any issues, any items to declare since the last meeting or for item under discussion today, just let us know. Okay, Chairperson's business. Page 6 of the pack, correspondence of the 28th of May from Fermanagh Council regarding central government policy and financial support. The Council has a Rural Affairs subcommittee which progresses research and data analysis relating to the district and have offered to present the findings to the research to this committee. We had 11 sessions with the Agriculture Liaison Group on the 3rd of April. Can we get maybe in the first instance get a written briefing from them? Would that be okay? Yeah. Okay. I refer to pages 7 and 11 of the pack for correspondence at the 2nd of June from the ERC Committee. The ERC has issued a call for evidence on citizen space and invites the committees to provide views and experience of scrutiny of cross-cutting legislation by the 30th of September, which will be included in the review report. Background information can be found by following the link provided in the correspondence, including a recent comparative research report on the reason for cross-cutting scrutiny and other devolved legislatures. For us to respond to this, the clerk will need to research through the historical bill work done in the previous mandate Space Committee, and then we'll bring a draft in September. Are we okay with that course of action? Thank you. Refer to page 39 of the table of papers for correspondence of the 2nd of June. We copied into from the Warren Point Community Association to Newry, Mourne and Down District Council and the NIA. The correspondence is regarding a formal complaint and objection concerning allegations of breaches of planning control at a site near Cairnbane Business Park, Newry. We last considered correspondence from Warren Point Community Association at our meeting on the 1st of May regarding concerns that they believe to have been multiple significant breaches of waste management regulations at the Warren Point Harbour Authority in relation to Regen's waste management operation and the NIA response to the situation. Members, any comments to make on this? Okay. Referred to the Oxford Research Project highlighted during last week's meeting. The report was emailed to members last week. The research collected data from 4 rivers in England. The clerk also forwarded the report to the OEP. We can hand a note or any comments? Okay. Members, referred to a joint concurrent meeting with the Committee for Infrastructure on Tuesday. We heard from DAERA, from the UFU, and also from a farmer who has lived experience of the issues facing farmers during the A5 Western Transport Corridor Scheme. It was a good meeting, and during discussions the UFU agreed to collate examples of cases where there has been poor communication with farmers and information gaps in advice from departments the farmers required, for example, applications for farm payments. The Infrastructure Committee yesterday discussed the concurrent meeting and agreed to write to DFI about considerations in relation to other buildings in the path of the A5 and the impact of the road on farm practices. The Committee also was also interested in the impact on single farm payments and will write to us on that pending any action we agree today. And I attend the meeting and Tom and others. Tom, do you have any comments about any comments want to make in relation to that? Or?
I'm just wondering with regards to the single farm payment, and when we did ask questions with regards to if a farmer were unfortunately to make a little bit of a mistake, would there be any flexibility? And they were quite adamant there wouldn't be. But I think as a committee we need to pursue this matter, because I was out on site yesterday again with a farmer, and even the wire fences that they put up aren't, they're not running straight, they're running all zigzagged everywhere. Now, on that particular farmer there was maybe 6 or 8 fields that were affected, so whenever they went to do their single farm payment, they had to sort of try and guess or estimate how much of that particular field was taken out, and the next one was the same, try and estimate and guess that, because whenever they go on to do their single farm payment online and they make a change, they say that this thing that goes a straight line doesn't know to go crooked, if you like, what the fence was like. So that is going to have an impact, and that there's no doubt about it. There's going to be maybe be little portions of land here or there that's going to be included that maybe shouldn't be included, and it's not, the farmers are doing their very best in this, but at the same time there will be some mistakes made. So I think we as a committee need to pursue the department on this issue for those farmers in A5 that if there is some little mistake made, that they're not going to be penalised in a single farm payment for it. They're losing enough at this moment in time. They're going through a very difficult period of time with contractors on site that's not doing work right, and all of this. So I think we need to pursue this matter with the department.
Yeah, and I was at the meeting, and Patsy's going to come in here as well. And I think, notwithstanding, that particular farmer was there, and he made the point that he supported the project, and that was the case for about 90% of the farmers. But he did make the point, quite rightly, that and that this should be seen as like a force majeure situation. That if the lines are kind of the route of the fencing, was kind of zigzagged, to use the term, and there is a possibility of a mistake being made. And I think I personally believe that, given that this is a very exceptional circumstance, that bit of leeway should be given. And I do what I picked up from them as well. They need more day-to-day ability to communicate with the department should issues arise. And I think that those were fair points that were raised. Patsy?
Chair, that's a very valid point that Tom is raising, because the last thing you want is for people to be penalised because of something that's not their fault. However, the one thing I would like to maybe establish is, this isn't the first time there's been a road scheme like there's one through my own area. I would like to just see how, or in what way, the department has applied itself with a bit of discretion in these matters where, through no fault of the landowner, there have been shortcomings or whatever it might be around the applications, just to see what flexibility that the department might have in that regard. I think it's important to do that, because people can't be faulted if something that's not their fault, or that it's their responsibility, but it's not their fault if things are a wee bit sort of, as we put it, inaccurate as a consequence of vesting.
Chair, I think if the department are going to hold firm on this, that what the department should have done, and there's plenty of time to do this, the department should have issued the farmers with the amount of land from every field that actually was been lost, and that then there would have been no excuse for the farmer, if you like. But for the farmer to try and come and to try and estimate how much of that field has actually been taken out is very, very difficult for him to do.
Yeah, I think that was very obvious when the farmer spoke there, and I think maybe we should reflect that to the department. Fair enough. Okay, thank you, Tom. That's right. Okay, members. You made aware by email that the Minister invited myself and Robbie to meet with him on Tuesday afternoon to discuss the NAP consultation and the way forward. We discussed a range of issues the Minister was planning to highlight, which he subsequently highlighted in oral questions. Do any members want to raise any questions or issues about this matter? It's a matter of big... Yeah, Michelle?
I suppose it might be interesting just to see, sort of get your take on what was said, and then how that was reflected then within the responses in the chamber. I suppose what the Minister really told us was what he then subsequently said during questions. He had made the point that he was setting up the stakeholder group with representatives of the NIEL and the agri sector to analyse the responses to this consultation. I made the point to him that that's what they should have done before issuing the consultation. Effectively, you put the cart before the horse. You should have got a bit of a pre-consultation with the sector to get a steer and things before putting out these targets. And I also made the point that by the fact that you're setting out these targets without any clear support or pathway for farmers to be able to achieve these here has caused a lot of anger and annoyance within the sector. And I also made the point to him as well that that there are tools there which farmers can use, but they're very much in their infancy. For example, the likes that SULS, the Farm with Nature scheme, and even I also made the point that the fact that the soil sampling scheme hasn't actually concluded right across the north as yet, so we haven't got the entire evidence base to see what parts of the country is high and low in P. he's moving far too far and far too quick without that proper evidence base. So I think the Minister subsequently would have said a lot of that in response to oral questions in the Chamber, but that was from my recollection, that was from the gist. It was short meeting just before question time on Tuesday.
Chair, we will be doing a short note, informal note. It'll go in next week's pack, just with it only been on Tuesday. We didn't get it done, but we'll do a short note. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, page 10 to 14 of the table of papers for a draft of a letter from us to the Farmers for Action regarding the conclusion of our due diligence on the proposals in their proposed draft Farm Welfare Bill. You'll recall that we requested our own legal advice and considered this with a semi-legal service in private session our meeting on 22nd of May. We agreed that we should write to FFA with the detail of our work and a summary of the restricted legal advice. Any comments? Are you content with the letter as drafted? Okay. Number 4, members, is pages 13 to 24 of the pack for the draft minutes dated the 29th of May. Have you any comments or are you content with the minutes as drafted? Then Robbie will sign these correctly when he comes back. Okay. Members Horizon, page 26 of the pack, there's a response dated the 30th of May from the Department of Communities regarding NI Shows Association. As you will recall, we considered this matter at a meeting of the 1st of May and we were briefed by NISA and wrote to the DFC asking it to re-engage with NISA and provide additional financial support for NISA's programme of work. The response states that DFC has no record of receiving correspondence from NISA on its independent resilience review of agriculture shows NI report and has asked if NISA would share the correspondence with them. The response also states that the DFC has no funding streams that NISA could avail of at this time. Any comments? Happy note? Okay. Okay, members, oral session, item 6, agenda item 6 is oral evidence session on the main 25-26 main estimates and June monitoring round proposals. Refer to page 30-32 of the pack to the briefing paper, which sets out the outcome of DAERA's internal consideration of the June monitoring round and provides details of the return due to DOF on the 5th of June. I also refer you to Annex A 25-26 DAERA main estimates template and Annex B 25-26 DAERA main estimates memorandum starting at page 33 of the pack. You're aware on Tuesday I spoke on behalf of the committee, Robbie spoke on behalf of the committee on the supply resolution for the main estimates 25-26. I now welcome the following officials of the committee: Roger Downey, Finance Director, Nuala Hennessy, in-year Financial Planning Branch, and Helen Mullan, the in-year Financial Planning Branch. And I'd like to invite us now to brief the committee.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to brief the committee today on the main estimates and the June monitoring round. Starting with the main estimates, and these reflect the opening budget for 2025-26 that the Executive agreed for DAERA on the 3rd of April. Members will recall that I provided oral briefing on the Resource Dale and Capital Dale draft budget allocations on the 6th of February, and the only additional funding that DAERA was allocated as part of the final budget was 3.4 million Resource Dale for the pay award. No additional Capital Dale was allocated to DAERA as part of the final budget, and the DALO wrote to the committee on the final budget updates on the 12th of May. The final budget was then converted into the main estimates format for the Supply Resolution and Budget Bill, which was introduced to the Assembly earlier this week and is due to be debated further next week. Annex A of the written briefing sets out the detail in the estimates on how the Department's Resource Dale, Capital Dale and AMI budgets are split across the various business areas. Annex B of the written briefing is an estimates memorandum which provides more information and explanations of the tables in Annex A and includes a number of pie charts on the Resource Dale and Capital Dale planned expenditure. I would add that the pie charts mainly reflect where the budgets sit in the department under each group or agency. This suggests a very small amount of expenditure on climate change, science and innovation, but that is really just the spend in Tracy Teague's group, as a lot of our climate change, science and innovation spend is actually through the Sustainable Agriculture Programme, through AFBI and through the work on other sectoral plans for waste, land use change and forestry and fisheries and these fall under other groups. There are also some bar charts, line graphs and tables showing how budgets have changed over the past year at each estimate stage and since 2023-24, along with associated explanatory narrative. Turning to June monitoring, and this is the first monitoring round in this financial year. The Department has won £3.2 million Resourcedale bid for BTB compensation in light of the latest projections for this year, and 4 Capital Dale bids totalling £8.9 million. These relate to £4 million for the Tackling Rural Poverty and Social Isolation Programme, or TRIPSI, £2.3 million for Caffrey Estate improvements, £1.3 million for NIA Country Park improvements, and £1.3 million for AFB scientific equipment. There is also one £8 million ring-fenced Resourcedale non-cash depreciation bid in this monitoring round. In addition, there are a number of de minimis technical transfers that net to £0.1 million Resourcedale into DAERA and £0.3 million Capital Dale out of DAERA. There are no reduced requirements, AME changes or non-budget movements in this exercise. Conscious that there are a lot of figures in the estimates and June monitoring briefing that was provided to the committee last week, and we're happy to take questions on any of those.
Good stuff, thank you. Roger, I see that the department has submitted 3.2 million Resourcedale for TB compensation, and obviously based on current projections this would be in submission. So obviously the department has a statutory obligation to fund this. So what the department have a contingency if that amount isn't met?
Well, I suppose this is the start of the year, so we're obviously bidding to the executive because it's a statutory obligation. The executive have funded TB compensation in the past, so there's, I suppose, more of a likelihood we would get a bid met for TB compensation than anything else. We will also be reviewing budgets right throughout the year, and if there's no funding forthcoming from the executive at June monitoring, we've got as far as the January monitoring round to bid again. But in the intervening period, we will be reviewing budgets right across the department and seeing, nothing stays the same. At the beginning of the year, things move on just as things happen, so there'll be easements and pressures, and we'll review the position then. We'll just play it by ear, and we'll come back to the committee in future monitoring rounds.
You see there the department is bidding for 8.9 million Capital Dale and 4 million of that is for the TRIPSI. Do you have any breakdown of what that 4 million would be earmarked for or identified for?
TRIPSI? Yes,
yeah, that 4 million is broke up for 1.7 for the Rural Micro Capital Grant Scheme, 1.8 million for the Rural Business Development Grant Schemes, 0.3 for Access and Inclusion, and 0.2 for the Village Catalyst Scheme, and those schemes are in conjunction with the DFC.
Yeah, and is there a timeline for those schemes?
I wouldn't have those here, no.
Okay. Thank you very much. Patsy?
Thanks very much, Chair. To get back there, at paragraph 7 in the accompanying letter, it says current estimates of the disease levels, this is TB, disease levels for 25-26 indicate the existing allocation isn't adequate to meet expenditure needs. What are your estimates for the disease levels and the potential expenditure needs for the incoming year then?
Well, the TB compensation projection is 47.4 million for 2025-26. So that's up. TB comp for the last financial year, it's just finished, was 43.1. So that's an increase of 4.3 million on last year.
I'm thinking more of that plus associated costs. The usual overall costs. Aye.
The overall cost of the programme, not just
approaching. Aye.
Yeah.
So the veterinary costs, all
EVPs,
the other departmental associated costs with that as well. That's what was about 60 odd million, wasn't it, for this year?
Yes. So for 24-25, the final expenditure for the whole programme was just over 60 million. So haven't got full projections for this year, but I suppose it's fair to say if the TB compensation element is increasing by 4.3 million under the latest projections, then all things being equal, it'll be over 65 million by the end of this financial year.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Nuala, Roger, and Helen. That's great. Thank you very much for that. We'll be seeing you again. Okay, members, item 7 is the oral session, Horticulture Pilot Scheme 1, 2 and 3, Policy Briefing and SL1. Pages 50 to 53 of the pack for the SL1 and the draft SR and explanatory memorandum, page 59. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme briefing paper is at page 54 of the pack. Members, we'll have a policy briefing on the Horticulture Pilot Scheme and on the SL1 Horticulture Pilot Scheme Regulations NI 2025. The Department intends to lay the SR under a negative resolution procedure, provided with the legal powers to implement the Horticulture Pilot Scheme as part of the continuing rollout of the Sustainable Agriculture Programme. I welcome the following members.
Chair, so we were running a bit ahead.
Right,
We
okay.
need to move on.
No problem. Okay. We can move on to agenda item 9. Right.
Yep, to the
Okay.
correspondence.
Okay, members. Whilst we waiting for the next briefing, we can move ahead to agenda item 9, correspondence. The correspondence memo at page 164 of the pack, and I'll go through a few of the items. 9.2. I refer to the correspondence to the 28th of May from the NA Marine Task Force at page 165 to 167 of the pack regarding the Outer Belfast Loch Marine Conservation Zone. The zone was designated in 2016 for the protection of priority species, and since 2023 fishing in the area is not permitted. However, the NAMTF states that anchorage of commercial vessels still occurs, resulting in damage to the site, and is calling for urgent action to protect it through the implementation of an emergency conservation bylaw. The correspondent lays out its rationale for the action required and urges the committee to request the Department will act with urgency to ensure the necessary measures are taken. Member, are you okay for us to forward the correspondence to DAERA for comment? Okay. Right, thank you. I refer to correspondence from the Executive Office dated the 22nd of May, page 168 of the pack regarding the Trade Products Free Provision Act NI 2022 report. A copy of the report starts at 169 of the pack, which reviews and reports on the operations of the provision of Section 1 and 2 of the Trade Products Free Provision Act NI 2022. Members, you okay to note this? Okay. I refer to a memo from the Clerk to the Committee for Finance dated the 29th of May at 198 of the pack regarding analysis of the 2024-25 outturn and forecast for outturn. The March R113 restabilisation starts at page 200 of the pack. Members, okay to note? Okay. Members, page 247 to 251 of the pack, correspondence from Farmers for Action dated the 29th of May. The Farm for Actions and Farm Groups NI sought a formal meeting with the committee regarding the NAP proposals in bovine TB, requested they submit a written briefing. We agreed last week to plan an engagement event in relation to the NAP proposals, and FAFA are on our list of proposed stakeholders. If any comments, are you content that they be invited to the event rather than offered a formal briefing session? And regarding that event, Janice has held an additional meeting with her engagement unit to start the ball rolling. Okay. Members, page 252 of the pack, an invitation to the NA Human Rights Commission to launch of its new independent research report, The Environment, Human Rights and the Windsor Framework. This online and in-person event will take place on the 24th of June at the Europa Hotel. Okay, note, members? Okay. Correspondence to the Department dated the 30th of May at page 253 of the pack regarding the public consultation on the draft 3rd NI Climate Change Adaptation Programme. We considered this matter by written briefing at our meeting on the 27th of February, and we noted the draft NICCAP3 contained over 230 proposed policies and proposals in response to the 3rd UK Climate Change Risk Assessment within its Adaptation Delivery Plan. The Department intends to launch a public consultation on
Monday 9th of June to run for 8 weeks until the 4th of August. Officials provide a briefing following the closure of the consultation and analysis of responses. Members okay to note? Okay, members, page 255 of the pack. This is Clark's memo from the Windsor Framework Democratic Scrutiny Committee dated 30th of May, regarding the proposed EU regulations strengthening the position of farmers in the food supply chain. A copy of the quarterly status update raised briefing note in relation to the progress of the proposed EU Act can be found at page 257 of the pack. The DSC noted that the wider impact of the proposed EU Act, which will amend a series of existing EU regulations related to the CAP, may be of interest to this committee, and agreed to share the raised briefing note. Happy enough to know? Okay. Page 260 to 61 of the pack corresponds to the Department dated the 30th of May regarding the NI Food Strategy Action Plan. A copy of the plan starts at page 262 of the pack, and the plan was published on the 14th of May and can be found on the DAERA website. You'll recall we had an oral briefing on the 1st of May where we heard that the framework proposes a new strategic cross-cutting approach to food to ensure coherence across food policies that help to improve economic, environmental, health and social outcomes in NI. Happy to note? Okay. Page 16 to 17 of the table of papers for correspondence, which has been sent by the NI Mushroom Grower Association to the leaders of the political parties. The consideration stage of the Agriculture Bill is on Monday. Happy to note? Forward work programme, page at 289. The itinerary for the visit to County Fermanagh next week starts at page 293 of the pack. Last week, following the written briefing regarding the SOLS Phase 2 programme, we agreed to find a date to visit the Blackstone Houston Estate and Downey to see the SOLS project in action. I propose we have a shorter meeting on the 26th of June and visit it after that. Lunch will be provided after the visit. At the visit, is that okay? If members, if you are okay, do you wish the team to organise a minibus to take us all together and then bring us back to Parliament Buildings? What do you think? Right? Happy enough? Minibus? Or we can travel out ourselves, whatever suits.
I'll need to travel myself if that's okay.
Not too far away. It's not too far away from here, isn't it?
Where's
Maybe it's in Dundaln somewhere, isn't it? Maybe you're just handy just to travel out yourself and then go on ahead. I would imagine. Instead of going and come back. Okay. Members, regarding our previously agreed visit to Caffrey Hill Farm at Glenwerry and Antrim Hills, committee team have made provisional arrangements for us to hold our last meeting before recess on 3rd July at the Caffrey Hill Farm and to see the work of the Irish Grouse Conservation Trust, which has succeeded in restoring the population of the Irish red grouse from 8 to 20 years ago to over 300 today. Members okay we hold the meeting on the 3rd July in the Caffrey Hill Farm? Okay. We have enough to publish the work for our work plan. Okay, members, any other business? Okay.
Chair, I think we should just
Okay.
suspend.
We will just suspend whilst we get our next witnesses, okay?
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, thank you very much. Thank you to the Deputy Chair for deputising for me. Apparently you were very popular. Right. So thank you for that, Declan. Then you have a bit of experience, to be fair. Agenda item 7, guys, is a departmental oral evidence session on the Horticulture Pilot Scheme 1, 2 and 3, policy briefing and SL1. So members, I refer you to pages 51 to 53 of the pack for the SL1 and the draft SR and the explanatory memorandum, which starts at page 59. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme briefing paper starts at page 54 of the pack. Members, we will have a policy briefing on the Horticulture Pilot Scheme and on the SL1, Horticulture Pilot Scheme Regulations 2025. Department intends to lay the SR under the negative resolution procedure to provide it with the legal powers to implement the Horticulture Pilot Scheme as part of the continued rollout of the Sustainable Agriculture Programme. So I'm going to welcome the following officials from the department. We have Paul McHenry, the Acting Director of CAFRI, Dr Eric Long, Head of CAFRI's Educational Service, and David Dowd, Acting Head of CAFRI's Horticulture Branch. The members do have a paper in their packs, gentlemen, but please do feel free to... Good man, excellent. I definitely got that wrong. If any briefing that you would like to give us on the pilot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, for the opportunity to provide the committee with a briefing on DAERA's plans to introduce the Horticulture Pilot Scheme Regulations Northern Ireland 2025. You received the draft regulations along with the SL1 in your pack, which sets out the purpose of the legislation, and we previously provided the committee with an oral briefing on the proposals for the Horticulture Pilot Scheme. With your permission, Mr Chairman, I would like to give you and members a short overview of the contents of the draft regulations, including details of the scheme, eligibility requirements and the application process. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme sits within the programme of change being progressed through the DAERA Sustainability Agriculture Programme. DAERA proposes to make this statutory rule under powers conferred to it by Section 5.2b and 6.1f of the Agricultural Act 1949. The overarching aim of the Horticulture Pilot Scheme is to determine the feasibility of a full horticulture programme to increase the output of the Northern Ireland production horticulture sector. It also aims to contribute to the delivery of many of DAERA's strategic outcomes by supporting growers to achieve improved environmental sustainability, enhanced productivity, stronger resilience and an effective functioning supply chain. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme Regulations 2025 are intended to give DAERA the legal powers to introduce the scheme and provide for payments to be made by the Department to eligible farm businesses. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme has a total budget of 7.7 million and it will be funded from allocations for the EU replacement funding for agriculture, agri-environment, fisheries and rural development for the Sustainable Agriculture Programme. The current value of the production horticulture industry in Northern Ireland is approximately 100 million per year. To set it in context, this represents 3% of the gross output of Northern Ireland agriculture, which is equivalent to the output from our sheep industry. I feel it is important to emphasise to the committee that although this is a pilot scheme, the 7.7 million cost over 4 years will represent a significant investment relative to the current size of the industry and demonstrates the commitment to developing horticulture in Northern Ireland. The horticulture industry can positively impact upon environment, health issues and are high on the government's policy agenda, including climate change, food security and public health. Horticulture also has the potential to have a greater economic impact by exploiting market opportunities such as import substitution, and it strongly aligns with the aims of the Northern Ireland Food Strategy Framework. The scheme also presents opportunities for those agricultural businesses who wish to fully or partially diversify into horticulture production. However, there are a number of constraints on the growth of the production horticulture industry in Northern Ireland. The overriding issue for producers is market access and low UK producer prices. But there are other issues that negatively affect the sustainability, productivity and resilience of the industry. Firstly, there is limited cooperation among growers. Previous attempts to rectify this have not been successful due to competition within the marketplace. This has led to fragmentation and a lack of supply chain integration. The 4-year duration of the Horticulture Pilot Scheme is recognition that building trust among growers will take time to achieve in an industry that does not have a history of cooperation. The scheme will also address this issue with the provision of facilitator support. Secondly, horticulture has never had a dedicated investment support scheme. Relatively low investment levels had led to a lack of innovation and poor productivity levels. This has left Northern Ireland growers at a distinct disadvantage in comparison with growers in other countries. There is also a lack of baseline data and market intelligence, which limit growers' ability to identify market opportunities to invest in. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme will de-risk investment in innovation for growers. Thirdly, the industry is very diverse, so providing specialist, centre-based education for each subsector is not feasible. There are few new entrants, labour shortages and an ageing profile of growers. This, combined with limited research and development being undertaken, means that there's a risk of a diminishing knowledge and skills base in the future. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme will provide growers with the opportunity to avail of upskilling and further technical professional development opportunities that are bespoke to their own production sector. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme recognises the unique challenges being faced by the sector and seeks to help address them by supporting the industry's ability to achieve its full potential. The scheme has been developed through an engagement process that includes the Agriculture Policy Stakeholder Group, Caffrey's College Advisory Group, and meetings with industry representative groups. Internally within DAERA, there's ongoing engagement across a number of business areas. It has also been informed by the lessons learned by past schemes and has sought to build on their successes. The schemes have adopted a bottom-up approach which recognises the entrepreneurial spirit of the horticulture sector. All the schemes have a competitive entry process which will select growers the best plans to grow their businesses and the industry. We will undertake ongoing evaluation of this pilot scheme and will apply the lessons we have learned in it to the development of a full scheme. We plan to begin development of the full scheme before the end of the pilot. Ultimately, it is our aim to have a sustainable, data-driven, collaborative horticulture industry that exploits market opportunities. This will not only provide economic benefits for Northern Ireland, but will also improve our long-term food security, public health, and ability to meet the challenges of climate change. Mr. Chairman, I will now pass over to David Dowd to take you through the provisions of the SR.
Thank you, Paul. I will now take the committee through the provisions in the SR that you have in front of you. These are regulations that establish the Horticulture Pilot Scheme. The scheme provides for payments to be made by the Department to eligible farm businesses which meet the scheme requirements. Skipping citation and commencement, interpretation and scheme grants, I will begin with Regulation 4. Regulation 4 specifies the duration of the Sustainable Sector Growth Group Pilot Scheme grant, beginning on the commencement date of these regulations and ending on the 31st of March 2030. It specifies the eligibility criteria for eligible farm businesses. They must have a Category 1 or 2 business ID number or be able to provide to the Department such an ID number with the written consent of the farm business holding that ID number. Being member of not more than one new group of businesses making one application to become a Sustainable Sector Growth Group. Operate or be employed by a production horticulture business and be at least 18 years of age. It specifies the Department shall pay to an applicant which holds a hosting event in a scheme year or the approved agent of that applicant a hosting payment of £786 for each hosting event. Regulation 5 specifies the duration of the Innovation Driver and Support Pilot Scheme grant as beginning on the commencement date of these regulations and ending on the 31st of March 2030. It specifies the eligibility criteria for eligible farm businesses. They must have a Category 1 or 2 business ID number and operate or be employed by a production horticulture business. It specifies that the Department may pay a grant of 40% of a sum between £10,000 and £625,000 in respect of approved permitted expenditure incurred by the applicant. Regulation 6 specifies the duration of the Growers Training and Support Pilot Scheme grant beginning on the commencement date of these regulations and ending on the 31st of March 2030. It specifies the eligibility criteria for eligible farm businesses. They must have a Category 1 or 2 business ID number or be able to provide to the Department such an ID number with the written consent of the farm business holding that ID number. Have a Level 2 Practical Horticultural Skills Award qualification or a qualification of an equivalent or higher standard as listed in Schedule 2 or be at least 18 years of age. It sets out a sum not exceeding £2,000 over duration of the Growers Training and Support Pilot Scheme is payable to an eligible person and not more than one of their employees for approved travelling expenses for attendance and approved course of instruction, demonstration or show within or outside Northern Ireland. Regulations 7, 8, 9 and 10 provide the general powers for withholding and recovery of overpayments, powers of authorised persons, assistance to authorised persons and offences and penalties. Schedule 1 provides detail on production horticulture products for the purpose of the scheme. Schedule 2 sets out the equivalent or higher educational qualifications for the Level 2 Practical Hort Skills Award. I'll now hand you over to Eric Long, who will provide more in-depth information on each of these three outcomes.
Thank you, David. Mr. Chairman, I will now provide an outline of the Horticulture Pilot Scheme. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme has been planned to provide support to the following sectors of Northern Ireland's production horticulture industry: soft fruit, that is predominantly strawberries, top fruit, predominantly apples, edible crops, predominantly vegetables and salad crops, mushrooms, protected crops grown under glass or polytunnels, ornamental crops which comprise hardy nursery stock, trees and bedding plants, and then cut flowers and foliage. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme comprises 3 sub-schemes. Firstly, Sustainable Sector Growth Group Pilot Scheme. Secondly, the Innovation Driver and Support Pilot Scheme. And thirdly, Growers Training and Support Pilot Scheme. All 3 sub-schemes will be delivered by an external contractor with the skills and expertise required to meet the diverse needs of the production horticulture industry in Northern Ireland. As highlighted earlier, the total cost of the scheme will be £7.7 million, and it will run for 4 years. The eligibility criteria have been designed to accommodate horticulture businesses which do not meet the criteria for Category 1 Farm Business ID numbers by accepting Category 2 Farm Business ID numbers. Pilot Scheme 1, Sustainable Sector Growth Groups. The aim of the Sustainable Sector Growth Groups Pilot Scheme is to support the formation of 6 self-selected groups of growers to demonstrate the impact of a collective effort by participants to cooperate, build scale, and reduce barriers along the route to market with their business performance. Growers will have agreed aims and objectives for the development of their businesses and will appoint a group lead to submit the group's application. There will be a competitive application process which aims to select the 6 groups of growers consisting of between 4 and 12 members per group. Groups will be selected against criteria based on their business plan as described in their application. Each group will be supported to work collaboratively through the provision of access to a facilitator, a business specialist, a supply chain specialist, and agronomist support. The impacts on Northern Ireland production horticulture businesses collaborating as part of the Sustainable Sector Growth Groups Pilot Scheme will be evaluated by increases with their gross profit margin, the number of groups formed, continuing to operate as a group after the end of the scheme, and increases in external sales. Pilot Scheme 2, Innovation Driver and Support. This pilot aims to support Northern Ireland production horticulture businesses by providing financial support to adopt crops, technologies or systems that are new to Northern Ireland with the overall aim of encouraging innovation, improving productivity and sustainability. There will be no prescriptive list of eligible items, and growers will present their plan as part of the competitive application process. This will help to address some of the issues the Northern Ireland production horticulture industry has experienced in recent years, such as labour shortages. Growers can apply for grant support up to a maximum of £250,000 or 40% of the total eligible cost of their proposed project. Therefore, the maximum purchase value eligible for funding would be £625,000. The minimum purchase eligible for funding will be £10,000. The impact of participants investing in innovation will be evaluated by increases with their gross profit margin, the number of successful adoptions of new crops, technologies or systems, and increases to external sales. Participants will be supported to successfully adopt new crops, technologies or systems through the provision of access to a facilitator, business specialist, supply chain specialist and agronomist support. The scheme will commence 1 year after the start of Pilots 1 and 3. Participants in Pilots 1 and 3 will also be able to apply for the Innovation Driver and Support Pilot Scheme. Pilot Scheme 3, Growers, Training and Support. This scheme aims to provide growers with the opportunity to avail of upskilling and further technical and professional development opportunities that are bespoke to their production horticulture sector. The scheme will be open to the business owner or a nominated member of their staff. An additional eligible criterion for this scheme is that the applicant must have a minimum of a Level 2 Practical Horticulture Skills Award qualification or a qualification of an equivalent or higher standard. This eligibility criteria requirement is to ensure that participants with less experience can communicate effectively with agronomists, but also to gain the best possible benefit from this pilot scheme. CAFRE will provide a Level 2 Practical Horticulture Skills Award qualification in advance of the closing date for applications, and this will allow potential applicants who do not have this qualification with the opportunity to obtain and avail of the Growers Training and Support Pilot Scheme. Competitive selection for the scheme will be based on the business and personal development plan outlined in the application as judged against set criteria. Participants will attend workshops and receive a £2,000 bursary to undertake visits to trade shows, study tours and farm visits. Participants will also be supported through the provision of access to facilitator, business specialist, supply chain specialist and agronomist support. The impact of the Growers Training and Support Pilot Scheme on participants will be evaluated by the number of participants completing the programme and the number of new businesses or new enterprises within an existing business operational 2 years after the end of the scheme. Mr. Chairman, I will now pass back to Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Mr. Chairman, I'm now going to provide an overview of the application process in relation to the application process for the scheme. The plan is to open for expressions of interest by the end of June 2025, with the programme delivering commencing later this year. The Horticulture Pilot Scheme is part of DAERA's commitment to digital first service delivery. Application to the scheme will be made through an online process which can be accessed through DAERA online services. The online application system will be designed to be very customer friendly. Guidance sheets and a link to the business rules will be available on the DAERA website. During the application window, there will be help available through use of a dedicated email address and the DAERA online helpline number. Digital assistance will be provided initially over the telephone, and a dedicated team can screen share and assist customers with the online application. All communications related to this scheme will be issued electronically. Applicants will be reminded to regularly check their email inbox for important updates and notifications. Mr. Chairman, that finishes the presentation on the Horticulture Pilot Scheme. I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you very much, and thank you for the pack. I know members will have to take time to read that, but also for the detailed presentation. Really do appreciate it. It caught my attention in your initial brief, Paul, in regard to we do have a high quality horticulture sector, but it's probably untapped in some ways, in that one of the challenges, it seems, is limited grower cooperation, and we've come across that perhaps in another iteration, which is the agriculture bill, in around the PO scheme, and that it seems to be only mushrooms kind of in that sector. In regard to assessing the validity of this to the horticulture sector at the moment, how confident are the department that there will be a significant uptake to realise the potential of growing the sector, and if there's been any calculation made of what that growth might look like?
Okay, I suppose I'll maybe start. So in terms of developing up the pilot scheme, there was broad engagement, not just with Ag Policy Stakeholder Group and our College Advisory Group, but also with the key industry players. So that helped to inform the development of the programme. But I'll maybe ask David, who's more of the background information in terms of horticulture, just in terms of the potential that this has to deliver. So David, over.
So we're still at a very early stage of developing the horticulture industry here, and relative to its potential to grow, we would see that there is a lot of potential for the industry to increase in size. Now, we don't have an exact figure yet, which is largely based, as we say in the paper here, that there's very little market data available on the horticulture industry, and part of this scheme is to build up that base of market intelligence and baseline data about the industry. So that will be a major learning outcome from this programme. Part of the evaluation is building that information base.
Okay. And in regard to the longevity of this, I think that there's obviously farming for generations, and there's a challenge in all areas of farming and agriculture to recruit and energise young farmers. We've met with the young farmers quite a number of times, and they're feeling a lot of external pressures and internal pressures too. Has this been drafted with young people in mind to link the Farming Generations programme to the horticulture piece?
Again, the key thing here is the programme has been developed based on our experience of delivering previous schemes in the past, the likes of the other knowledge transfer schemes, the likes of the business development groups. So in terms of the duration of the programme, that's based on our evidence from business development groups, which demonstrated that it took that 3 to 4 years of people working together in peer-to-peer groups to actually develop that cohesion and the piece of it, actually the benefit of working together and actually getting the group to share, that they were confident to share information with each other. So that links to, in terms of the duration of the programme, and in terms of engaging with the young people, that's really through the Ag Policy Stakeholders Group and the feedback from the key industry representatives from the horticulture sector.
If I could just add as well, one of the things we have put in this programme is that it's not just the owner of the business. The owner of the business can nominate somebody, so that could be a member of their family or an employee. So we're very keen. We recognise that we need to get new young people into the industry. So that's why we put that into the programme, that you can nominate somebody.
Yeah, I'm conscious this is slightly different than the farm and agri, where there is the potential for enterprise here as well. So this can cater for businesses, but for enterprise and new business opportunities too, it sits slightly in a different space. Like my perspective, I'd certainly like to see that utilised a little bit. There's an interesting piece here, gentlemen, about new technologies, more robotic and automated processes to help address the labour challenges. But maybe just a general question in regard to are those technologies embryonic, or are they kind of on the market at the moment? And I imagine that they're possibly cost prohibitive at this stage, possibly not. But could you give us any more detail in regard to that?
Yeah, well, I'll maybe start, and then I might hand over to Derek, who will have more experience in this area. The key thing with the new innovation is what we want to do here. We want to de-risk it for the farmers and the individuals. So, and that's where the capital support is. So we can come in and evaluate in terms of that new technology before the growers would actually invest in it. But I'll hand over to Derek, who might have more detail in terms of some of those innovations.
Yes, Chair, look, there's a broad range of automation and robotic opportunities, and there's still ongoing development at a fast pace. But certainly there's a lot of availability of automation opportunities for growing management systems for horticulture crops, things like watering and fertilisation. And you're absolutely right. There is a cost issue with those. And also there's a certain amount of risk in terms of particularly those new technologies which haven't been adopted previously locally and tested. So the whole purpose of the Innovation Driver and Support Pilot is to de-risk that aspect of adopting new approaches, new technologies. Also, there's ongoing developments of automatic and robotic systems for the harvesting of horticulture crops, and that's of particular interest to the mushroom sector. Now, that's still very much, there's ongoing development, and there's some adoption in some countries across the globe, but it's not sort of mainstream as yet. So, as I say, the whole purpose is to encourage, give growers the support necessary to test new approaches which will improve ultimately the competitiveness and sustainability of their businesses locally.
And part of these 3 stages then is, I don't know if I picked this up right, in fact I haven't because I'm not terribly sure, is there the chance then for resource financial support to avail of technology that's perhaps available and tested? So is that
yes,
correct?
Yes, the Innovation Driver and Support Pilot will facilitate that. Now, it is very much focused on technologies and innovations and systems which are new to Northern Ireland. And that's all about seeking to demonstrate new approaches and encourage other growers to avail of them as well.
Thank you for that. And then final question from me, and then Declan. To be eligible for Pilot Scheme 3, applicants require a level 2 practical horticulture skills certificate or an equivalent nationally recognised qualification. We had a discussion, as I said, with young farmers at the Balmoral show, and part of that discussion was in regard to increasing requirements for farming, or in this case, horticultural qualifications. Can you explain the need for the qualification in this instance to avail of that part of the pilot scheme?
Okay. We felt it was important because you're going to have people who are coming into horticulture maybe for the first time or relatively new to it. They're going to have agronomist support, and in order for them to communicate effectively with the agronomist, they're going to need a basic level of horticulture knowledge. So the level 2 program that we would be putting forward that they would have to attend would be very much based on things like pest and disease management. So it'll be very applicable to what they're doing. We would also see that the program, the level 2 program, would be designed very much around the needs of the grower in terms of what times of the year are they busy, and we would design it to make it as easy as possible for them to attend the program. So that could be online evening sessions and condensing the program down into a format that works for them.
Is that in order to achieve a qualification to get onto the pilot scheme, or is there an opportunity for either prior accredited learning, or because it's very the word qualification jumps out at me. Whilst I know the value of that, I also know the value of having done a degree in later life in university where I was able to attach my professional experience in the fire service and then apply that without having A levels and things like that.
Well, I would say the content of that program will be very useful to them, and it will be CAFRE staff that will run that program or provide that program for the growers. So I think it's something that growers, in terms of an opportunity for them to get professional development provided to them here in Northern Ireland, would be something that they would likely be interested in anyway, in terms of developing their own knowledge and skills.
Is there support, financial support for that course for the qualification or is that out of their own pocket?
Well, I suppose the programme will be delivered by CAFRE, so we'll deliver it within our existing resources. So there's limited cost to the individuals, and because of the fact we're going to use a hybrid delivery model, a lot of this will be able to complete online at home. Now, we do still want to be able to bring them into the likes of CAFRE, because there'll be practical elements of the programme that we will want to deliver, but also the growers will want to see.
Thank you. That's usual. Thank you very much. Declan?
Thank you, and thank you very much for your presentation. And I welcome this scheme. I suppose there's a couple of questions. On the first one, the Sustainable Sector Growth Group, the pilot, the applicants that there have to either have a Category 1 or 2 farm business or the written consent of somebody who's a farm business. Now, bear in mind that we have a 3 hectare rule here for that to be the minimum farm size. That creates say if somebody has 2 hectares, which is right bit of ground, that would make it more difficult for them to avail of this here scheme, because they wouldn't be eligible to have a farm business because they haven't enough land effectively, and also as a consequence of changes being made this year, they used the historic reference year of 2020-2021 for people who hadn't livestock then, and those people have been ruled out this year from the new basic payment. So there's a couple of thousand people who had farm businesses who now don't. So I just think that people who haven't farm businesses and who want to start this year are placed at a disadvantage. I don't quite understand the rationale for that.
Well, the Category 1 business ID is for those that have the minimum, eligible land area. Yeah. The Category 2 now, I assume, was for anybody. So there wasn't a limit to the amount of land that you specifically owned, and that's why we had included it within this programme. And again, it's based on our previous experience of delivering it, in particular the business development groups, where we had it limited specifically to Category 1 business, because there's a lot of horticulture businesses out there didn't have a Category 1 ID because they'd never drawn down any level of support previously. So that's why we had included the Category 2 at this time.
see, rather than setting this out that you have to have a carry 1 or carry 2 or the consent, why even have that? If somebody has sufficient ground and area and they want to take part of this, why even have that included? Why can they apply of their own right for their own business ID?
Well, really, when we're talking about consent here, so if you work within the farm business, so say you're an employee within a farm business, it's to allow you to avail of the programme. And again, this is based on the previous experience of the BDGs, where initially it was linked to the owner, and yet some people that were involved in the business couldn't apply. So we then opened it up so that those farm workers and others within the business could also attend. So that's really what the consent relates to.
Thank you. And the other thing was, in the briefing note we got, that in other similar schemes and across the water and across the rest of Ireland, in other similar schemes they provide funding for modernisation, but this scheme does not include funding for modernisation. Why is the case that in other parts of these islands that is the case, but in this pilot scheme it's not the case, and is it a danger that puts the sector here at a competitive disadvantage till across the water and the south?
Well, within the Sustainable Agriculture Programme, there's other schemes which horticulture businesses can apply to. Within that scheme, they'll be able to apply for funding for capital purchases in terms of modernisation. So our scheme is more focused just on the innovation side of it as part of it, because it's a pilot scheme.
Right, yeah, because we would have heard, particularly in the mushroom sector, the importance of funding for modernisation, particularly given the challenges they have with access to labour. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Declan. Patsy?
Thanks very much, and thank you for your presentation. Now, can you just talk me through how this scheme has been developed? Was there any consultation, dipping the toe in the water with the industry, how that was developed? Because you just don't want, I'm not saying that Caffrey doesn't know what to do, but what I'm saying is you just don't want to be putting something out there and it not been suited necessarily to the needs of the people that you're trying to support.
Well, I suppose I'll maybe start, and then either Eric or David can add to that. So within this programme, we consulted widely, and particularly with those people within the horticulture sector. We also consulted with the ABSG and within our college advisory group, and within that advisory group we have representatives in there from the horticulture sector. So that helped to inform the need and the areas that we needed to focus in on. We also scoped out and looked to see what all our programmes had been delivered in all our regions and how well they had worked, how successful they had been. So we brought all that together to get up with this initial plan, and that's where we identified the big challenges around cooperation and the issues around price, and the issue with price being the fact that because you've individuals working on their own, they don't have the same power when it comes to negotiating deals. So that's why we wanted to very much focus on. Which
probably brings me on to the next element of your thinking. That was I think it was 6 selected groups. Now, just can you talk me through that? Do they have to, if you like, constitute themselves? What way is that done? Because obviously you can have a group, and it could be a loose alliance, it could be a number of individuals just under the title of something for the purposes of availing of granting it. Can you talk me through how that works, and maybe I'll just take you through the practicalities of issues that you mentioned there as well. Those talk about facilitation, business specialists, access to markets, etc., and addressing labour shortages. Now, I would be really, really intrigued as to how that final one is going to be addressed, or potentially addressed within this scheme, because if it does, it's come up with a magic bullet for nearly every other industry in the north here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, would you move?
Yep. Well, just in terms of how we would see a group, a sustainable sector growth group coming together, this is based on experience in previous schemes where we saw that where a group of growers come together themselves and apply for a scheme with a common aim, it's much more successful than us trying to bring a group together who don't have a common aim.
Yes.
So that's the rationale behind that part there. As part of so we would see this working that out, that the growers who will hear about the programme, learn about the programme, and see an opportunity in the marketplace, and then they will come together and put in an application together, and in their application they'll put in their plan for what it is they see how they're going to work together and what they're going to achieve, and then the best applications will be ones that will be put forward. So in terms of your question there around how will it sort of help with the problem of market or labour shortages, well, within the growers in that sustainable sector growth group, they'll also be able to apply for the innovation driver and support scheme. So they'll be able to apply for that scheme, which can help with issues around automation. Then,
Yes.
in terms of how a group of growers coming together will be able, because they'll be able to cooperate
Yes.
and identify markets, that should help with putting together
Yes.
a better, being more competitive, and being able to attract labour.
And on that, you're taking me on to me where I was going to go anyway. It says the pilot scheme will provide financial support to horticulture businesses to grow crops that are new to Northern Ireland. I would really be interested to hear what crops are new or potentially new to Northern Ireland, and also the implementation of technology or system which could be deemed as new to Northern Ireland. I'd be very interested to hear what that technology or system might be if that could be used, that's not in use already elsewhere. It would have to be pretty much niche, I would think, and how niche, and what do you have in mind?
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of, for example, a crop could be, I suppose, one of the things to say, we're not being prescriptive about what these are, because we are looking for this, we recognise the entrepreneurial spirit of the industry. Mm-hmm. So, for example, a novel crop or new crop in Northern Ireland could be, say, production of cherries under cover. That could be a new crop. In terms
of
of
a title for a book, that one.
Yeah.
but right,
Yes,
cherries undercover.
Yeah. So,
Right,
for
okay.
example, part of the work that we're doing at Caffrey at the moment is we have the Lochry Land Use Project, where we're looking at innovative crops that we can produce here in Northern Ireland to contribute towards a circular economy. So there'll be learnings that come from that as well. In terms of technologies, you have robotics there, for example, of an innovative technology that aren't currently
I'm
used.
trying to narrow it down to what technologies that aren't or may not be in use elsewhere, because what I'm trying to establish is, if you make the eligibility criteria so narrow that it, in effect, in other words, technologies that are already in use in Northern Ireland in other sectors, be it agriculture, whatever type of machinery that might be, or robotics, whatever that is, if you have it down here that it's not in use already in Northern Ireland, you could maybe find out that there's very, very little that isn't in use elsewhere.
Well,
Or maybe you're going to tell me differently.
Because the equipment and systems you use in horticulture does tend to be quite niche, and that's one of the problems that growers will face.
Okay.
Is that a lot of the innovation that takes place in horticulture takes place, say, in Europe or around GB or in the south. So we would see that there should be a lot of opportunity for growers to come up with ideas of things that are new to Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Because the production system in horticulture is very specialised and niche. That I wouldn't see that there should be too many issues in them adopting new technology or crops or systems.
Right. Okay. And you feel that there is going to contribute in some way to addressing the labour shortage?
Yes. Well, if you take, for example, robotics, I suppose when we talk about robotics, you probably have in your mind something like a robot hand coming out and picking strawberries, for example. Well, that sort of technology is still under development, but there's a lot more simpler robotic systems that are out there, maybe not in Northern Ireland. So, for example, robots that can lift up potted plants and move them around the nursery. So that would help with the labour shortage, for example.
Finally, Chair, just picking up on that theme, would any part of this funding then, whether it's Pilot Scheme 2 or whether it's even Pilot Scheme 1, would any part of that allow for people to engage others, or maybe themselves, in research around what sort of specialist equipment might be available in other jurisdictions or other countries that isn't available here. Would that allow for them to do that research and, I don't know, maybe visits or whatever?
That's where it links in with that specialist support that they'll be getting, you know, as part of the programme. So they're bringing individuals with that knowledge of what other new technologies are out there and available for them to bring in. That's the purpose of that. That they will provide that, because probably the world leaders in this whole area is you go to the Dutch, okay, but they're leading in all this new technology. And you know, the opportunities here for the horticulture sector is huge, because within the UK, I think there's something like 6 billion of product coming in from outside of the UK. So in terms of us being able to tap into that market, and as I say, a lot of it's coming in from Europe, you know, and we are at CAFRE developing those linkages for, in particular, with a lot of the researchers and the organisations within Europe that are leading in this area. So.
Well, thanks very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. John?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks all for your presentation and the information you've given us this morning. Can I start with this? Today is World Environment Day. Something I hope the committee in the future might be able to mark more formally. But on the environmental theme, because it's World Environment Day, can I ask you, the report mentions sustainability, of course, and we've referred today to better environmental outcomes. Can we hear perhaps a bit more on what those better environmental outcomes might be? And I'm thinking in particular that might be focused on composts and fertilisers and pesticides, for example, but I'd be keen to hear more if possible.
Okay.
Yes, no, absolutely, and thank you. Well, in the first instance, production horticulture is much lower carbon footprint when compared to production agriculture enterprises, because there are no livestock, so no greenhouse gases nor slurry outputs. Also, from a sustainability perspective, the horticulture sector has been proactive at adopting more sustainable production approaches and systems over the last many years. An example of that would be the move from peat-based growing media to peat-free growing media. Now that's been very much driven by their customers, the multiple retailers, and you know that agenda. And also in terms of you've mentioned pesticides. In terms of crop management, increasingly growers are using biological controlled, especially in protected growing structures. So it's glass houses and polytunnels where there's species such as predatory wasps, which will control greenfly, which forgoes the need for any pesticide usage. And again, of course, that's all about building green credentials, and it gives them a marketing edge. And similarly, in terms of improved nutrient utilisation as well. So hence, there's a great opportunity for development of the production horticulture sector in Northern Ireland to assist the whole industry move towards carbon zero in the future. Fantastic opportunities for that to happen.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question's around the emphasis on the report on business support and specialist advice. That's perfectly understandable. And I'm intrigued by the mention, Patsy mentioned it before me, I'm intrigued by the mention of growing new crops, and the discussion there very briefly on cherries undercover, for example. Growing new crops, whatever they may be, might also mean the potential of accessing new markets. So I'm keen to know through these schemes, will there be able to be, or is there already set up, linkages with other departmental schemes, whether DAERA or elsewhere, economy being an obvious one, local councils, economic development programmes being another one. Where market opportunities are identified, whether domestic or abroad, will there be scope here to link participants with other schemes, if that's appropriate?
Where relevant, we will. We have a good proven track record in terms of working with the likes of Invest NI and the Innovation Voucher Scheme. So where there's an opportunity to do so, we'll be very much encouraging that, where there's potential to add value to a product. And that links back to the work that we're doing down at Lochary, looking at growing crops new to Northern Ireland, protein crops potentially for human consumption, and then processing them through the Food Technology Centre down there. So we'll be able to even tap back into the work that we're doing at Lochary to help these growers in particular that are looking at new crops and new areas for
But there would be opportunities there to at least advise people on where to go if they need additional help or additional support, particularly in technology, for example, which wouldn't sit with DAERA, but there may be opportunities for support elsewhere.
If I could say through the chair, no, absolutely, and that's one of the reasons for the supply chain specialist, because an overarching rate limiting factor for the production horticulture industry in Northern Ireland is market access. And so the growers have to access the market. It's not like beef and sheep or red meat processors or dairy farmers where they're the dairy processors. So it's all down to individual businesses securing a market per se. And I suppose that's the whole principle of the Sustainable Sector Growth Groups of facilitating a more collegiate approach to securing new markets and to growing existing markets as well. And certainly, we've been working closely with our colleagues that are involved with the development of the food strategy framework, and also with supply chain programs that will be upcoming in the next few years, with the aim of ensuring that all that's as joined up as possible to optimise the support opportunities for production and horticulture growers in Northern Ireland.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, John. William?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you're very welcome. And support for the horticulture sector is welcome. I think it's been recognised widely that there is scope for improved growth in the sector. Number one is training and support. You have to have a level 2 certificate in horticulture too, right? When's the cut-off date for applying?
Okay. Well, what we aim to do, and we will do, is that we will deliver that programme. So while the application window is open, which we don't have yet because we haven't got approval, but we will ensure that the programme will be delivered. The level 2 programme will be delivered before the application window closes, so that nobody is being disadvantaged.
When does the application window close?
We'll see. We don't have a date set.
You haven't a date for closing yet?
No, because I suppose we don't know when we're going to be allowed to open the programme. So
okay.
Until we get it.
I thought it was going to be open in June.
Well, sorry, our ambition is to open in June. So if it's open in June, but I suppose all I can say is that we will not be closing the application process until the people have the opportunity to complete the level 2 programme.
I think that would be only but fair.
Mm-hmm.
There is an opportunity for young farmers with small parcels of land to get involved.
So.
Given that the maximum grant is 250,000, is there another danger that a small number of growers can gobble up that 7 million and leave very little for the small first-time guy to get in?
Yeah, but I suppose we would have to wait till we see the appetite for this programme. And if
you're a bit late then. Whenever you have set the rules, you can't change the rules change horses halfway through, can you?
Yeah, but
if you set targets and set amounts, you can't change that again.
No, I suppose the other thing is it's not just about the money; it's about the type of innovation, and so we have to look at the complete picture. It's not just about allowing those people in that are going to avail of the maximum level of grant, because we want to ensure, and particularly if it's a new crop or a new innovation, we want to ensure that those people do get that opportunity to avail of it.
And I welcome that, but usually the larger growers are more organised and better at it, and probably will get through jump through the hoops quicker than the new start guys. And I had some concerns that a small number of growers would gobble up the 7 million, leave very little for the small grower, the new entrant.
Yeah. I suppose the other key thing is this is a pilot, and the experiences we learn from this will be used to help develop that larger scheme. And if we do see that as the case, then that's something we'll have to build into the bigger programme. at whatever stage we come to develop it.
Okay.
Thank you, William. And Michelle.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation this morning. And it is actually good to see this moving forward and giving support to growers. I'm just curious as to whether there's only one entry point within the pilot scheme. Will that be in year one, or will there be other opportunities throughout the pilot for others to get involved?
I suppose initially what we will do, we'll open it, there'll be an application window open, and we will promote that heavily, very heavily, to try and get people into the programme. Depending on the level of uptake will help to inform whether we need to open for subsequent tranches. At this stage, we don't know, because we don't know, while we've engaged with the industry and with indications for the likely numbers. If we feel that there's a need to open again, then we will aim to do so. Now, we may have to go back and seek ministerial direction around that if we need to go back again, but we'll address that when we get there. But at this stage, we just have to wait to see the level of uptake.
Okay, and we've always had previous discussions in relation to the whole issue of around resilience and the challenges that has, particularly for the horticultural industry, given weather dependency. And I appreciate that there are opportunities for covers and so on too, but primarily we're very much dependent on Northern Ireland weather, and that also creates challenges, I guess, from an economic perspective as well. So I suppose I want to ask whether or not there will be modules within this around building resilience, but also what, on an aside, really what discussions you're having, maybe even with the department on a broader, in a more significant way, around looking at crisis support.
Okay. In terms of the weather piece, there is. We recognise that there's some crops we won't be able to grow here in Northern Ireland because of our climate. Some of them we can grow under cover to mitigate that. But there is some other crops, because we don't have a massive sector at the minute, there is some crops that actually suit our climate, in particular the likes of cut flowers. And David can maybe provide a bit more detail on that. And in terms of crisis support, I suppose we'll have to look at that, as the programme is being delivered. But I do feel that there is an opportunity. There's some crops that we have the potential to grow and grow well, and because of the fact we're not that big at the moment, that links to disease resistance and everything else, because we're not that intensive at the moment. So as I say, while we mightn't be growing tomatoes or pineapples and things, there is some crops that do suit our climate in particular.
I suppose the reason why I'm asking you this is because obviously we want to encourage the sector, and you're obviously asking them to invest quite heavily in machinery and various other methods. And I suppose for them, they will need to see that there's also future support for them as they move out of the programme. So it's about those sort of general conversations that I'm curious as to whether you're having.
Okay. I suppose we're very conscious that this is a pilot programme, okay, and we don't want to wait to the end of this programme before we develop a bigger programme, because we wanted the two to run hand in hand. We're at the very early stages of scoping out what that larger scheme will look like, and a part of that process is engaging across the wider department. Now, and the delivery of this programme will help to inform some of those other interactions that we will need to build into the larger programme, including around future support to people once they complete the programme. So just, I suppose, to reassure you that is all being considered at this.
I'm very positive about what you're hoping to do here, and I suppose it's really about building on that,
Of course.
and encouraging more to get involved in the industry. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And we have Anya online. So Anya has a hand up. Anya, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small point from myself, because everything else has been covered. In terms of evaluating the effectiveness and any outcomes from the pilot scheme, is there any benchmarking in place, or exactly what way will the department evaluate it?
I'll maybe start, and then I might hand over to David here, who can provide some more of the detail. So in terms of evaluating the programmes, it will be very much based on the framework that we have used in the past to evaluate similar programmes. The challenge with the horticulture sector at the moment is that we don't have a lot of baseline data, okay? But there is a number of metrics that we are going to include in the evaluation process, whether that's gross margin differential from the time they start the programme to the finish, the level of output and how it has increased, and then in terms of the development of the individuals, in terms of their professional development. These are all metrics that we'll be looking at, and the evaluation will be carried out independently of CAFRE or the department as well. So, David, is there anything else you want to?
Yes, and just to mention as well that we would see the evaluation process starting before the end of the programme, because we want to learn lessons as quickly as possible. If it is positive, we would like to try and roll out onto a full programme as soon as possible.
No, thank you, David. And I suppose that is important, as you say, learn any lessons that need to be learned and implementing them as soon as possible into the bigger, larger scheme. But thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Is everyone content? Yep. Thank you, and thank you, Anya. Thank you very much for your presentation, gentlemen. So that's us. I finished with you guys. Members, are you agreed that the department proceed to make the SR, and then we will consider it and the SR report in due course?
Yep.
Members are content. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Okay, members, we're going to move on to agenda item 8, which is the SL1, the Agriculture Student Fees Amendment Regulations, Northern Ireland 2025. I refer you to pages 70 to 74 of the pack for the SL1, the draft SR and explanatory memorandum at page 75. The Department intends to delay the SR to amend Agriculture Student Fees Regulations, Northern Ireland 2023, which sets out the level of fees payable for undergraduate and postgraduate higher education courses delivered by DAERA at CAFRE. The SR will be led before the Assembly under the negative resolution procedure subject to executive approval. It is anticipated that it will come into operation on the 1st of September 2025. And I welcome the following departmental officials to brief the committee. Mark McLean, the Chief Agricultural Economist, Policy, Economics and Statistics Division, PSD, Pested? Don't know if you say it like that. And Chloe Robinson, the Deputy Principal, Policy Development Branch, PDP. Thank you very much, and we do have some papers in our packs, but if you would like to brief the committee, please go ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. Thank you for the welcome and for the opportunity to speak to the committee today regarding the proposed statutory rule that would make amendments to the Agriculture Student Fees Regulations, Northern Ireland 2023. These regulations would apply an inflationary increase of 2.3% to the higher education student fees at the College of Agriculture, Food and Rural Enterprise for academic year 2025-26. This is in line with the Department's policy position to maintain parity with the higher education fee framework set by the Department for the Economy for higher education courses provided by other higher education institutions in Northern Ireland. In addition, the higher education student fee amount charged to students from Great Britain at CAFRE for academic year 2025-26 will increase from £9,250 to £9,535 to reflect the level set by the Department of Education for England. This maintains parity with the charge set by all other higher education institutions in Northern Ireland. The proposed SR would also make minor amendments to the qualifying person schedule to reflect changes made in the immigration rules in relation to persons granted indefinite leave to enter or remain as a victim of domestic violence or domestic abuse, as a bereaved partner, and persons granted leave to enter or remain under one of the Afghan or Ukraine related immigration schemes. My colleague Chloe Robinson and I will be happy to take any questions from the committee.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, I've got one question for you. And we know that since 2022, DAERA's policy position on higher education fees for home students is to maintain parity with the higher education fee framework set by the DFE for higher education courses provided by other HE institutions in Northern Ireland. This has resulted in 2 fee frameworks operating since then, I believe. At what point will all students on the legacy fee framework have completed their studies and be on the same platform?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear the
last part, or all of it? Do you want to go through it all?
No, just the last part.
Okay, so it looks like it's resulted in 2 fee frameworks operating since 2022. At what point will all students on the legacy fee framework have completed their studies
So last year we had 50 legacy students in 24-25, and the provisional figure from Cathray for this academic year, there's going to be none on the legacy framework.
None?
No.
Excellent. That's a very factual answer. Thank you very much, which is very unusual. That, making that a habit. Thank you very much. Patsy. Declan, did you have anything? Yeah, Patsy.
Just a wee technical and good to see you, Mark. So I was just looking at, I'm intrigued by these. There's an equality and disability duties impact assessment, and that runs to 62 pages, and that's grand. The rural needs impact assessment runs to 8 pages. Now, I have a wee query around 2C of the rural needs impact assessment. And that query is that it asks if it's likely to impact on people in rural areas differently from people in urban areas, and please explain how it's likely. And it says won't impact on people in rural areas differently from people in urban areas. The only query is there that I see it as affecting people disproportionately in rural areas, because 79% of those who are likely to apply are from rural areas opposed to 21% from urban areas. So I'm just don't expect an immediate answer today. It was something that, a bit of an anomaly that I spotted in the midst of all it last night whenever I was reading through the papers.
Yes, so the inflationary increase applies across all students at Cathray.
I get that, aye.
And it's in other HE institutions in Northern Ireland as well, so
yes.
No matter where they go, they're going to be charged that standard rate, wherever they study in Northern Ireland.
Maybe you're not getting what I'm saying, is that it says it will not impact on people in rural areas differently. It affects people in rural areas disproportionately, because 79% of those affected are from rural areas and 21% are from urban areas.
Yeah, I think if you take Cathray in isolation, you could make that point. Mm-hmm. But the way we've been looking at it is looking at HE fees right across the board, and because this maintains parity with all HE institutions, mm-hmm. which would draw their students from urban and rural areas. Therefore, we're concluding that this, when in the principle of maintaining parity with all the other institutions, wouldn't have a disproportionate impact on rural areas.
So you're taking it in the context of all institutions, yes, as opposed to this isolated one?
Yes.
Okay, grand, thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Patsy, any other questions, members? I don't think you're going to get up as late as this the next time you come. So don't. Okay, so members, are you agreed that the department proceed to make the SR, and we will then consider it and the SR report in due course? Mm-hmm. Thank you, members, and thank you very much for your attendance today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members.
Okay,
members. Agenda item 12 is the date, time and place for the next meeting. Our next meeting is on Thursday the 12th of June, and that's going to be at Castle Archdale in the fabulous county of Fermanagh. And we'll now...
Not meeting on the 11th first?
Sorry, we're meeting on the 11th. Yes, we're going to discuss that in a second or two, but that's for committee business. So the next committee is going to be on Thursday the 12th of June. Castle Archdale, starting at 10 a.m. Thank you, and that's us finished. Thank you.
Sound. Committee Room 21. 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 Sound. Committee Room